Assalamu alaikum, you're watching Views in News and I'm Faisal Rehman live from our Islamabad studios, and today we'll be talking about the Pakistan-US relations. Obviously during the last couple of years, and especially post 2011, I think these two countries are not in fact following the same alignment, and it seems that the interests of America and Pakistan, they have instead of having some sort of a conversion, there seems to be a lot of diversions there. One important factor is China. As we all know why Americans were here, not now, but even 20 years ago when they invaded Afghanistan, the primary purpose was not to eliminate the Taliban or to have a major crackdown on the Al-Qaeda or to in fact kill Osama bin Laden. Osama bin Laden, whether he was killed or picked up, God knows. But having said that, after almost 20 years, when the Americans left in haste, we all realized that the Taliban, they had almost occupied 80% of the area in Afghanistan. As far as the Al-Qaeda is concerned, they are pretty strong in certain areas, obviously supported by a couple of intelligence agencies like NTA or RAW perhaps, and even CIA to an extent, as we all know about the mystery helicopters and the mystery C-130s. They used to drop the load in the areas where the so-called the non-state actors were present. So we can well imagine what was going on, and now the situation is at a brink where we should call it a civil war kind of a situation, and we all know kind of situation that has developed over a period of time, especially in the last couple of months. Now, one important factor, a step towards China, does it mean a step away from United States of America? Yes, indeed it is. Whether we admit it or not, whenever we talk to the diplomats, they say, well, yeah, there has to be a thin line, there has to be some sort of an equilibrium in place, but how to do it? Because the interests of the Chinese and the Americans, they are in direct conflict. When the American president, whenever they take charge, even the current president, Mr. Biden, he said, well, we have got two adversaries. One is China, one is Russia. Simple as that. They have two enemies. And now Pakistan is getting closer to those two enemies. What is that supposed to mean? Now, how to sort of have that kind of a balance in the relationship as far as diplomacy is concerned, as far as trade is concerned, as far as military support is concerned, the training is concerned, and there is so much, because ever since Pakistan came into being, we were always in the American camp, and certain change, which we believe that we are trying to balance it out, is in fact not being balanced. Rather, we are tilting too much towards China. You can look at the current situation of CPEC. Americans want Pakistan to be out of it, and we are totally dependent on it. Indians, despite the fact that their private sector really wanted to be a part of CPEC, the government did not allow because of the Americans. And now the situation seems to be pretty fluid in the region. What exactly is going to happen? That is a million-dollar question. But what is happening at the moment, is that favoring Pakistan? Again, Prime Minister today issued a statement that we are not supporting the Taliban, and he rejected all the allegations on Pakistan. When you talk about the issue in Kashmir, or you talk about the Indian wrongdoings in Balochistan, or the kind of engagement they have with the NDS to destabilize Pakistan, that is very much alarming. We used to talk about this third generation warfare and fourth generation. Now we're talking about the hybrid warfare. Things have changed over a period of time. Now you don't expect tanks coming into Pakistan or Pakistani tanks going to India. This is what the name of the game is. Perhaps media, perceptions, this is what really matters. And obviously Indians have a lot of clout, a lot of money, and it is a huge market. So definitely when you talk about FATF, so there is a reason that despite Pakistan has really complied well on 25 out of 26, yet you are in the grey list. And so much more we can talk about. But quickly, let me introduce you to our panelists who will be throwing light on this particular issue. Let me introduce you to our first panelist, Dr. Faraz. She's an expert on foreign affairs. Thank you so much, ma'am, for your time. And we also have with us Dr. Naazir Mahmood Saab, senior columnist, analyst, and also a writer. Pleasure to have you, Dr. Saab. And on Skype, we've been joined in by Brigadier retired Amjad Ali, who is a defense analyst. Brigadier Saab, thank you so much for your time, sir. Pleasure to have you in the show. Well, let me start off from you, ma'am. When I say that a step towards China means a step away from the United States of America, in literal meaning, is that a correct statement?
I think, Faisal, I don't understand this entire debate about why, if we have to move towards China, we have to step back from America. When, like, since ages, we are friends together, like America, Pakistan, and China. But when we were friends with China, we are still friends with China. China never asked us to choose between one side, either be with America or be with us. Why America is all the time asking us to take side? This time we are being challenged with that. So this should not happen at all. So it's America pushing us towards to choose a side, either this way or that way. Like, the game and this entire
You're with
thing.
us or you're against us.
Yeah,
Simple
it's
as
the same thing. It's the 2001 narrative
Mm-hmm.
that you are with us or against us. So why is it happening? It's all America that who is doing it. It's not Pakistan that is taking side.
Mm-hmm.
America is pushing us towards it.
So you believe that this is the kind of diplomatic challenge that we're going to face in the future as well? Because Blinken spoke to our national security advisor, Mr. Moeed, and again, earlier than that, he was in India. And he did talk about the human rights issue and all. Or perhaps I think that was on the main agenda of Mr. Biden.
Yeah.
But having said that, I mean, the way they twist our arm, I mean, they don't twist the arm of the Indians. Whether they don't let them, A, and secondly, as somebody said, that it depends on the length of the arm also. So how do you see that?
Oh, well, I think in that perspective, we need to see that why America is doing this to us and why not to India. The reason is probably China. Because India, China, they're not in good terms with each other, like diplomatically, but Pakistan and China, they are. So the entire strategy, why America is doing it, I think to put us in a very difficult situation so they can use us for whatever interest that they are trying to achieve out of this entire game. And I think they have been doing it in the past. In their translational relationship, it's what we have been seeing throughout the history.
So no more strategic partnership, that is with
No.
the Indians. Now we are a transactional partner.
Yeah, we are transactional partners. I think this was happening throughout ages, but this is the time where we identified it, that this was not some sort of friendship relationship that we had in the past. It was transactional relationship based on American interest.
When Soviet Union invaded Afghanistan, Dr. Saab, we supported the Americans, and we all know about the Charlie Wilson war and whatever happened in Pakistan. The narratives changed. Islamization was very much in place, and the Mujahideen, they were prepared for the war, and certainly there was this material support coming in from the Americans in the form of money also. And then eventually they ran away, and Gorbachev, said, we won't be looking further south. Good enough? But now, sir, there is another challenge, whether you talk about the South China Sea issue or you talk about CPEC, expansion of the Chinese, the economic expansion as well at the same time. Though the Americans have very clearly defined that China is our adversary, and we need to put a check on their expansion through whatever means. Perhaps war is not an option at the moment, but indirect sort of engagements have been there. And then pushing India to become a giant in the region to challenge China. And Quad was formed, which includes Japan and Australia also. But now, sir, this engagement is obviously a point of danger for the region, because you're talking about 3 nuclear powers here, sir. And if you include Russia, they come 4. Include America, they become 5. So when 5 nuclear powers are daggers drawn for a certain cause, means that this is the invitation for a lot of trouble.
Yes, trouble is brewing, but I don't see that it will reach that stage where it becomes a full-blown war, because China itself has interests in America. Still, Chinese companies are working in America, so they have not reached that stage where they expel each other, and they start.
The trade war was very much on, sir.
Trade war is on, but still, as I say, that their relations are strained, but still their economies are also dependent on each other. Pakistan has more trade relations with America than with China. This we have to keep in mind. And Chinese investment in the shape of CPEC that we are having, and $65 billion that is promised to be invested till 2030, that is mostly infrastructure projects. And if United States wants us to move away from China, it should have come up with a counter offer, so to say.
40 trillion they want to invest.
Not in
those
Pakistan,
countries,
globally.
Yeah, globally, those
but
countries.
There is no concrete, investment or as strong offer as China has been doing. Chinese projects are already progressing, and we can see that. Job opportunities are being created, though mostly infrastructure projects, power projects. So these are very concrete, tangible projects that we see. On the other side, America is talking only. No concrete proposal has been given. And you mentioned Indian role and the regional politics also. So, even if Quad becomes active, America is a foreign power. Japan is a foreign country. It does not have an immediate regional stake in this region. No, Japan and America don't share border, and same applies with Australia also. So in Quad, out of 4, 3 are outside powers. Only India is a local power. Now, if India decides to side with America and the other 2, overall in the long run, I can see that this is not going to work. Why? Because we, Pakistan, China, Russia, or even Afghanistan, we are local people, we have our interests here, and future prosperity of this region, I think, depends more on China than on America, because so far America has been unable to give, as I said earlier, give some concrete help to this region, apart from just talking. Having said that, Pakistan's policy in Afghanistan needs also reconsideration. Why reconsideration? Because no matter whatever say, whatever, happiness, if not verbally, by our body language that emanates from our Prime Minister Imran Khan or our Foreign Minister Shah Mahmood Qureshi, the happiness that we display at the gains that Taliban are making, I think internationally this is not a good sign. We should, because Taliban, as I have been saying earlier also, no matter whatever.
So when they are saying that they won't let their soil to be used against any neighboring country, especially Iran, China or Pakistan, it favors us. Don't you think even if they form a government, I'm not in favor of anybody, and nobody should be. I mean, you should always have a balance. But what I'm saying is that instead of having an enemy government in your neighborhood, which has always made you bleed, why not to have somebody, who will at least look after their own affairs, and you won't be threatened from that particular border?
In the past also, Taliban had a negative impact on Pakistan. And even if they take, first of all, I think it is very difficult for Taliban to take over Kabul. Western powers, America and other Western powers, they will not allow, it will not be that easy. But I can foresee more intensification of civil war, emergence of more militant groups in Afghanistan, and that will have aftershocks in Pakistan also, and that will not be good in terms of more terrorism. Al-Qaeda will be more strengthened. Maybe Daesh comes up, maybe IS comes up. All these groups have one thing, including Taliban. These are different shades of the same ideology. And what is the ideology? They are extremist groups, they are militant groups, they have their own religious ideology to impose on people. They are using violence, they have been using violence. So these are 4 or 5 factors which they go, which goes against the progression of the world. They are regressive powers. So even if, just because we don't like India or India doesn't like Pakistan, having a Taliban government in Afghanistan will not be good for this region and will not be good for Pakistan also.
That has always been your narrative.
I have been saying this just like, in the 1980s when Pakistan was involved, General Ziaul-Haq led Pakistan into that war, and there were
Don't you think that was a totally different equation at that time?
It is the continuation of the same policy. We have sided with regressive powers. Mujahideen were again extremists, violent. They had their own ideology of Islam to impose on people, and we were siding with them.
And that ideology, after spending $30 million by Charlie Wilson again in the curriculum, changed it. This is what happened.
America
I
used
remember,
it.
sir, I'm 49 years old, and interestingly, when I was in school, we were in a missionary school, and one day we got to know that now the uniform is not going to be the typical blue blazer and grey trouser, it is going to be shalwar kameez. And eventually after 1 month, because nobody could properly wear it at that time, so that idea got eliminated. But later on, that we used to have a choice between keeping civics or the religious studies, and then the religious studies became Islamiyat, and then Diniyat, and then Islamiyat, and then Lazmi wala, that compulsory. The point is, sir, that was the narrative, and we only used to, do 5, 6, 7 chapters that all included jihad, ghazwa,
exactly,
flana, ghazwa this and ghazwa that. The problem is that that's how you change the narrative, and that is when the extremist mindset actually started cultivating in Pakistan.
And then we wonder why in Pakistan people have become more violent, why Pakistani people are...
Look at our society in 50s, 60s and 70s.
So,
and then Zia's era started.
For God's sake, we need to realize the mistake and push back. Rather than supporting these extremist power, we should realize that this is not the right approach. You know, there are
So you had a change of regime in Iran, correct? From Shah to Khamenei, total religious
transformation.
right? What happened in Afghanistan? What a modern country. Girls used to wear skirts and nurses and all, you know. This was what Afghanistan
And
was.
we were the ones who
People used
stopped
to
that.
go to Kabul to watch movies and party on New Year's, honestly speaking.
We didn't like that. We tried to impose Mujahideen and we suffered. Then we tried to impose Taliban and we suffered. And once again, we want to impose Taliban and God forbid what happens. So, you know, whoever is making policies need to realize that this is not the right approach.
Now the million-dollar question is that the TTP leadership was shown on the American television channels, correct? What is that supposed to mean? That means that somebody is engaging the non-state actors from that side of the world, whether they'll be getting the financial support, military support. And what about those two C-117 planes that came in carrying some sort of weapon? Do you
Yes,
think that is better than the American weapons? No, sir. That was
even
primarily
worse.
Exactly. There
That
you
is
go.
even
There
worse.
you
So
go.
that's
There
why I am saying
there
that,
you
you know,
go.
trouble is brewing.
There you go. There
So
you go.
we
And
have seen
now
Libya, we have seen Syria, and there might be
and
trouble
perhaps
in this
that is one
region
of the
also.
reasons that the FC and the police, they've been withdrawn, and now the proper military checkpoints are there. The military has taken over the entry and exit points. But still, let me take the same point to
Sure.
Brigadier Saab. Brigadier Saab, number one, that is about the issue, if you remember, when the former Secretary of State of the United States of America, Hillary Clinton, and she also happened to be the First Lady when Mr. Clinton was the President, she on the floor of the House very openly said that Americans ditched Pakistan and they withdrew without informing anything, and they left Pakistan in dire states. Now, sir, if you look at the current situation, this is even worse than that. So I think history is repeating itself, sir, but leaving Afghanistan in a much more chaotic situation. Brigadier Amjad.
Thank you very much. In hindsight, the things, whatever Dr. Saab is saying, seems to pretty good. But I feel the situation is totally different now. It is over 2 decades. The things have pretty changed. The things are not the way we are looking at the things now. Because whatever is happening in the region, we are keeping a very close eye on it. I mean, our foreign office and those who matter, our agencies and the armed forces, or maybe law enforcement agencies and the government itself. Whatever Taliban are now doing, they have already expressed their feelings in one of the interviews, one of their leaders. He said that no, we are not the same old Taliban. We have learned the diplomacy. We have learned how to behave and deal with our neighbors. They have also agreed in Doha that we will not let use Afghanistan land, soil against any neighboring country by Al-Qaeda. They have also promised that the things will not be the way these used to be 2 decades ago. Whereas in retrospect, if we see the things, this have been happening like that. The things are not worse now. This time America did not leave without informing Pakistan or informing those who matter in the region. They were very well informed. Rather, they were to withdraw their forces by May. They have now gone up to September. And perhaps that is the basic reason where Taliban expressed a bit of their annoyance. We should not get into those old things that who did who. What were those Taliban? What were those Mujahideens? Faisal, I am of the view that it is the interest of the nation. This is not the loyalties, brotherhoods, or friendships with the countries. The friendships, the brotherhood, the good relations with the neighbors or the countries at the international level, those are merely keeping in view our national interest. And this time our Prime Minister Imran Khan has explicitly expressed that absolutely not we're going to be part of any conflict in the region. We are friends and partners in peace only. And this thing is not understood by America now. In 1967, Richard Nixon also expressed that we cannot afford to leave China for good or isolate them from the family of the nations. They have to be on part. The thing is that there are so many geopolitical changes. They are taking place in the region, whereas Taliban now have control over more than 200 provinces out of 421 provinces. So more than 50% of the Afghanistan is under control of the Taliban. We need to formulate our foreign policy accordingly and prudently and I'm sure the people are on it and they are doing it. We just cannot say anything well, which many of the things which we are not aware of, being the analyst while sitting on television. We just see the television, we just read the articles in newspapers. But there are many things under the ground. Those are being done, being taking place, and that is what I believe that is what is required. That is what is the requirement of the time. And this time, inshallah, I'm sure we'll be placed at a better place in relation to Afghanistan.
That's a very, very optimistic and positive school of thought, sir. But reality could be a lot different, because we do not yet know the kind of engagement the Taliban will be having in the future, even if they form the government, Brigadier Saab, because at the end of the day, the Americans, they have committed 400 billion along with the NATO to look after the affairs in Afghanistan. So obviously money would matter a lot, and they will have to listen to those powers who are providing them financially. Do you think at some stage the Chinese and the Russians, perhaps two countries with the largest forex reserves, sir, don't you think their role should be very vital, very important, and they can actually turn things around, sir?
That certainly is, because these are two very important players here in the region. Russia and China are the major players in the region. And I'm sure America, it is a very, very strong country. It is a superpower country. They exactly understand that what is at the stake. It is not only Russia with which now they'll go for the Cold War or with the China. Now they absolutely understand that as far as Pakistan is concerned, its relation now being developed with the Russia, they are now coming in forefront. Our relationship with China, our relationship with Afghanistan, our relationship with improved relationship with Iran and in the Middle East. Now, main facilitator to just mend our relationship with United States, which were certainly all right, but there must have gone something wrong. That will be through UAE and the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. So I am sure that sense will prevail. We'll go for the win-win situation. Even America would like to go for that. And they would like to contribute towards, like they have been contributing those agreements which were TAPI and those CASA 1000. And I'm sure they would like to contribute towards the economic growth, towards the economic activity in the region. Because one road, one belt, it has almost become a reality now. CPAC is almost complete. It is about to be completed. And there are no two opinions about it, that China has to play a very important role in the region. And you must have seen that their foreign minister, not less than foreign office, they met Taliban. Not once, twice. Taliban even met foreign office of the Russia. Even America doesn't understand it. They are understanding it. The position here is now.
Mullah Abdul Ghani brother had a very, I think, successful visit in China also, sir.
Yes, it has. But the awkward position is now for the Indians. And our, DGISPR has expressed it a few months back, that how many terrorist camps, out of total more than 80 terrorist camps, more than 66 were in Afghanistan. The amount of investment they had invested in Afghanistan in order to counter Pakistan and in order to forestall our progress on CPAC, that has been, that has come to square one. So now this is, Dr. Saab has very rightly said, now this is the time where India would stand. And what will be the strategic relationship between India and the United States of America? And the latest visit of Mr. Antony on 26th of July of India, his tone was very, very soft as far as China was concerned. They were not very forthcoming at hard stance. They were rather trying to say mend your relationship, because there are a lot of changes which are going to occur in the region as a whole. And that is not only in the Central Asia, it will be the Southeast Asia as one whole.
All right. Now, ma'am, the National Security Advisor, Jake Sullivan, had a meeting with our National Security Advisor also. And they said that, fine, we will continue to, work together. So let's define about the areas where they need to work together. And Pakistan wanted them to make sure that things should be better in Afghanistan. But it seems that since the concept of the Americans, there is no change in that. They still want Afghanistan to be volatile, number one. They still would expect the Taliban to be under some sort of a check. They would still keep on supporting the current government out there, but for how long? One. the role of the non-state actors, whether you talk about Daesh, there was no Daesh in Pakistan. Maybe these are all the splinter groups of the TTP or otherwise they've joined hands. TTP's leadership met in America. What is the purpose? Now they're trying to engage all the non-state actors to sort of put pressure on the Taliban. So there's going to be an infighting that would result in an absolute civil war, a lot of refugees pouring into Pakistan. Just imagine, I mean, there was this attack on the border in Chitral side, around 45 of their soldiers, including 5 officers, they came back and then we returned them gracefully. But the point is, are we aware of the situation fully, ma'am? Are we prepared? Do we have a contingency plan in place? Or we are just, you know, issuing these statements? Let's be honest.
All right.
Brig Sahab, I'll just come back to you. The question is for the lady here.
Yeah. Yeah, I think first of all we need to see that from where this issue arises. Like, I think first we need to understand who created these Taliban, right? And at that time, what cost Pakistan paid to it? And then secondly, what sort of, you know, promises were made to the Taliban in Qatar, in Doha? And then when they got ditched. So are we, like at this time when we are asked, you know, to pay the cost that we have paid once when these Taliban were created in the form of refugees and the human loss that we had, are we really prepared to do the same one more time for America? For
and you know, these are not only going to be the refugees, a lot of diffusion would take place when the TTP would enter.
Much more. And then we also need to understand that who provided training facilities to these guys, these extremists, and the creation of all these non-state actors. We also need to understand from where Islamic State people landed in Afghanistan.
Syria and Iraq?
Straight away. So
yeah, they can't walk all the way via Iran.
Yeah, so they never existed here. I have written a paper on that why Islamic State failed in Pakistan to recruit people, just because we have our own non-state actors operating here, so they don't have a market here, right? So once they don't have a market, how come it potentially become a threat to Pakistan? I don't see it happening. In terms of
but there were a couple of bomb blasts and a couple of terrorist activities, and they were all claimed by Daesh,
TTP linkage, splinter groups supported. What's called, like, you know, linkages.
Hizbul Ihrar, Hizbul Tahrir, Afridi group,
they all are
TTP, Daesh, IS, you name it.
So something that was really help supported from Afghanistan across the border in Pakistan. And I really liked when you mentioned in the beginning that this age is now changed. We probably will not have a nuclear war, but and this age is a hybrid war. We could see the way FATF is handling us and the way the Indians are issuing statements about FATF and the political status of FATF, IMF. So these are all clear examples that from where to put pressure on Pakistan to make Pakistan agree on the terms that America wants us to do, right? In another way, we also need to see when Indian uranium and the nuclear things, they were getting, you know, leaked and they were getting exposed in the market just for over pennies. So what if that happened in Pakistan? Will the powerful states like America will let us live? I don't see that's happening.
So they have a very biased approach.
That's a biased approach. That's a very clear-cut approach that they are siding with one party irrespective of what sort of mess up is happening there. On the other side, Pakistan is being tortured all the time to agree on the terms and conditions that America is asking us to agree upon. So we are never partnered in this relationship. We are somebody who have to listen to America all the time. So I think in this sort of scenario, the American strategy of, you know, providing what's called a time frame for the Taliban to withdraw its forces and all, I think that created a huge problem for America, Taliban, and it put Pakistan in a very difficult situation because we tried to sort out the relationship or a kind of, you know, improve whatever America planned to have with Taliban, and now when they are deviating from their initial plan of Doha, now something else
they
is
started
happening.
bombing them.
So we can't help it. And at this time, I believe it's my own personal opinion, the Taliban are more stronger as compared to whatever they were in the past, and they are now into diplomacy as well.
They started off from the northern side, where they had never any power. Whether you talk about this side of Badakhshan or you come further down, you talk about the area of Ahmad Shah Massoud.
Panjshir. And look, if I can see a clear victory, why would I listen to someone who is going to make me work under them? I will never do that. Why would Taliban do that? In this entire game, whether it suits Pakistan to be with someone who has never been a true friend, who have always been proven to be a transactional friend. So whom we should side? I think we will always go and stand with peace. That's what the Prime Minister is always and always coding, that we will be friends with peace, but we will never be friends with war and conflict. So I don't think this is going to happen.
So whatever we could have done, I think we have done as far as Afghanistan situation is concerned. We have brought the Taliban on the negotiation table, and Pakistan made sure they should talk, and those talks were very conducive, very meaningful, I would say. And eventually they yielded results. But again, the Americans backed out. once more.
True.
And this is what is happening. The moment the last soldier, in fact, flew back to United States of America, they thought, you know, nothing doing now in this area.
So in that kind of situation, what can you expect from America? And why would we pay the cost of they being ditching Taliban from the Doha agreement and something else that they're demanding
So
now?
maybe they have something else brewing in their mind?
Destabilizing the region could be one of the reasons that
Because
comes to my
as long
mind.
as this entire region is destabilized, I mean,
True.
no money coming into Iran, another adversary, no money into Pakistan as such, rather we cannot get those fruits. And then you talk about the Central Asian link, the Russian link, the Chinese expansion towards those 126 countries. I mean, everything is going to come to a halt. I mean, even if there is a problem, look what happened in Gilgit-Baltistan, and it created a lot of 9 engineers. Chinese engineers and 3 Pakistanis were killed.
We will witness many more such sort of incidences because this is a hybrid age, hybrid warfare. Stage narratives will be coming up, something that would be probably very, very alarming as well. But I think the state of Pakistan is prepared enough for that.
I think
I think they have taken a very bold step and they should stand by that. That's my personal opinion.
Well, now another important point, sir. When the U.S. Secretary of State, Mr. Blinken, says that we have talked to the Pakistani authorities and we are, we're cooperating. I totally fail to understand what sort of cooperation is there, because military has a very solid stance in this. I'll just take you back 10 years ago. 2011, sir, 3 major incidents happened. One was the Salalah attack, November 2011, right, sir? In which 26 of your soldiers were brutally murdered by the Americans. Let's be very clear. And Hillary Clinton again was the Secretary of State. The word sorry never came from them. No apologizing, nothing. Further down, there was a story of another character. His name was Raymond Davis. And what he did, we all know, and how he escaped when the other Secretary of State, Mr. John Kerry, came to Pakistan in a private plane and took him back. Whoever paid that dayat or whatever that is called, that is one of the business tycoons again in Pindi, right, sir? And another incident, let's go further back. May 2nd, Osama bin Laden attack. I do not understand that some say they knew it, some say they don't, but eventually that man was living there. And it's a fact, one of my very close friend who happened to be the CCPO there in Ahmedabad, he told me the story because he was the first-hand witness. So it's a very different ball game, sir. And then People Party takes the honor that, see, we did it. It was the military who pushed them to make sure that they should stop these supplies. And we did. And at least I mean, they were not expecting it. So don't you think this is the time that Pakistan has taken a stance that we won't let our bases to be used against Afghanistan or otherwise? We need to do a little more. Let's be a little more stiff. Don't you think so, sir? I think time has come.
Yes, but before that, you reminded me the 2 incidents, and you said, People's Party was not doing, and the state institutions did it.
There was a lot of confusion. I mean, there were people in favor, there were people against. I mean, eventually, the decision was taken in GHQ, sir. We all know. You know.
Well, I mean, if Osama bin Laden is found in Abbottabad, and we want the world to believe that we didn't know, this is height of naivete.
You believe he was there?
We are probably too naive that the world believes that we didn't know. Sitting in Abbottabad, garrison city, if I built a wall, just listen,
because I know that guy personally.
If I built a wall in my home,
facing,
people know. CDA comes, just one wall. CDA comes and says why this wall is there. And the huge structure is being erected with that high walls, and nobody knows in Abbottabad. Then you talked about, okay, let's forget about that. Then Iqbal Afridi, who apparently facilitated.
Dr. Afridi.
I think Iqbal Afridi.
No, Iqbal was his name.
Anyway,
Shakil Afridi.
Shakil Afridi. Now, Shakil Afridi apparently facilitated the whole thing, and then we put him behind bars and punish him. Now, the world says that Osama bin Laden was a terrorist. He is caught. The person who, Shakil Afridi, he facilitated this, why he was put behind bars? Raymond Davis, you and me know. Raymond,
what about
you
Justice
talked about,
Iqbal's report?
Since you brought this topic, that's why I'm just reminding me. I'm reminding.
Then I'll share
talking
a few
about
things with you too.
Raymond Davis.
That was the actual bone of contention, right?
Who facilitated? Raymond Davis should have been punished here. Who facilitated his departure? You read his book and you get to know who was informing, and live commentary was being given to them that, you know, we are protecting your interest and we will send him back, and he was sent back, you know. So, you know, these are harsh realities. Self-congratulatory approach is on one side, that we were always right, we were doing the right things, but there were things that we were not doing right, you know. Now coming to present.
Everyone will make mistakes.
Well, there have been too many mistakes.
Okay.
You know, there have been too many mistakes,
A
and
chain of
probably
mistakes.
and probably we are in the process of making some more. So coming back to now, I forgot what was your question in the first place.
Osama bin Laden, whether he was there or not,
Okay.
DNA could have been done.
Okay. So probably then again, if he was not
Two
there,
of his
why the
guards-
whole structure
Two
was
of his
demolished?
guards, both brothers from Swat, they were murdered there, right, sir?
Okay.
You know,
Okay.
one was lying like this on the stairs. It
Okay.
was a 3-story house, right, sir?
Okay.
Another was killed also. Then there was another body which was taken away, and you could see the bloodstains and all. And on the top floor, they were like children and the wife
And
of Osama bin Laden, with
20
plenty
hen
of
and
gold
10,
or something.
10 buffaloes and 3
Hands
wives.
tied, and she was saying something Arabic. Nobody could understand what she was saying, but later on, one of the person there told another officer that, see, this is not Dari, or this is not Pashto, or this is not Persian, this is some other language, tribal language from Saudi Arabia. So she was there as well. So it doesn't mean that he was there as well, but perhaps even if he was.
Maybe if he was not there, then why we demolished
And,
the
and
whole
how did
structure?
the Americans
structure should
got
have
to know
stood
about
there.
him? The person who informed,
this is-
again, the tall guy with the beard, lives in San
Anyway,
Diego.
maybe somebody else
was
was
given $50 million, and he's doing a ball of, he's having a ball of a time.
Okay, okay, I believe you. He was not there, and he was not killed, and we didn't know what happened.
There. Let's move on.
let's
Coming to you,
move on.
Brigadier Saab, now the interesting part is that Americans, do you believe, sir, they could be trusted now? The kind of situation that is developed over a period of time, sir, are you my friend or you my enemy? Because I don't trust you. That trust deficit between both these countries, at one level, CIA was engaged like this with ISI. Now it seems that they are poles apart. Perhaps they are working together in certain areas, but they're not fully complying. Your take, sir?
Faisal, this past is just should be used as a reference. We should not live in our past. Unfortunately, we and our general public and
Then
few
we
of
keep repeating
our
mistakes.
intelligentsia is still living in the past. A lot of water has flown under the bridges. Let us not doubt the very intelligentsia of our country. Let us not doubt the stratagem of the planners, or those who are sitting at the helm of the affairs and making the policies. Let us now realize this thing, that we have successfully fought 2 major important wars. One was war on terror, that was necessarily an insurgency. Out of 132 insurgencies in the world, we are, alhamdulillah, the only country who could win it in just a very short span of 16 years. Let us admit that we are facing a very dangerous type of war, that is hybrid war. And I fully agree with Dr. Faraz that we are very successfully fighting it. And if we are fighting this war and we are into it, it means that I'm sure those who are sitting there at the helm of the affairs, are those who are sitting there who is making the policies, are those who are sitting there who are, after Almighty Allah, are very responsible people who are responsible for our very safety, our sovereignty, and our oneness. They are not sleeping. They are opening their eyes. They are sitting with their opened eyes. Let us not get pessimistic. Let us be optimistic. Let us not underestimate ourselves, our armed forces, our policymakers, our diplomatic maneuvers. We have displayed it very successfully in February last year, while giving a bloody nose to India, while they try to be nasty with us. We should hope for the best. And I fully agree with Dr. Farah again that this is not now the same America. America very well realized and is realizing that this is not the same old Pakistan, who will say whatever they'll do, tell us to, will just obey their orders for do more. Our Prime Minister on various forums has explicitly expressed himself while saying, absolutely not. No, we are not going to do anything which is not in our national interest. Whereas small little incidents here
Because
and there,
statements like absolutely not would keep you in the grey
we
list.
should be ready.
that is the question. I mean, because in diplomacy, sir, the art is to create a balance. Have more friends, have less enemies. Being too blunt, too straight, don't you think one has to pay the price for that, which we have paid in the, in the form of being in the grey list, or later on at some stage there could be sanctions imposed in Pakistan, or something similar happens, or perhaps the Americans try to change the government in Pakistan if they can do it anywhere else, sir. I mean, and, the kind of influence they have.
We are on every stretch. I fully agree. I fully agree. But we'll fight it. We'll be out of it, inshallah. We'll be out of it. We'll fight if we could show a resilience of just enhancing our GDP. So I'm sure there is nothing impossible. Allah is with us, and we are a very, very proud nation.
All right, sir. Actually, when you talked about hope, that reminds me of a Bollywood movie, an old one, Shawshank Redemption, in which he says that hope is a good thing and perhaps the best of all. So I think we should keep hope, but there has to be a plan
Inshallah.
also, sir, because he had a master plan, remember?
Exactly.
But anyway,
we have planned for the worst. We are hoping for the best.
Pir Saab, thank you so much for your time, and definitely we'll have you again in the show, sir.
My
Take
pleasure.
care of yourself.
My
Thank you
pleasure.
so much, ma'am,
Thank
for
you.
coming over. Pir Saab,
Thank you.
pleasure to have you as well. And that's all we have for this week, rather. Have a great weekend. Enjoy the rain. Look after yourself. Keep wearing masks. And be careful. Stop going out. Stop attending the functions. Corona is spreading like wildfire. So be safe. Stay at home. Khuda Hafiz.